Good evening and welcome to the People's Platform for the Newsfirst team. I'm Niresh Eliathambi. Well, the environment is much in the news with yesterday's judgment by the Supreme Court, a fabulous judgment. But that is a judgment pertaining to one particular shipping disaster. But that's not the only one which has menaced our coast over the last several years. And right now, as we speak, there is yet another environmental disaster which has unfolded on our coastline in the north, but it seems to be flying under the radar as far as the news is concerned. And to talk about that, and of course all of the other environmental shipping incidents, I have with me Mr. Muditha Katuwawala, who is the Executive Director of Pearl Protectors. Welcome, good evening, Muditha. And I have also Mr. Nuwan Peiris, who is an attorney at law who specializes in marine law. Welcome and good evening, Nuwan.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you.
Right. So, Muditha, this latest shipping environmental disaster, now a few people have heard of it. We know what this ship is. It is the MSC Elsa 3, and it actually sank on the 24th of May, but it didn't sink off Sri Lanka. It sank off Kerala, and perhaps because of that, it hasn't got a lot of attention from Sri Lankan authorities. However, although it sank some distance away, the debris from that wreck and the cargo, the very harmful cargo, has washed up on our shores. I believe from Kalpitia all the way to Jaffna. So tell us about this particular situation, what happened and what is the situation now, Muditha?
Yes, so right now we are facing another maritime disaster. This time just exactly 4 years after MV Express Pearl, we are seeing MSC Elsa unleashing a lot of pollutants onto our marine environment. And this ship had left Vizham port on the 24th and was this incident happened 38 nautical miles off Kochi in Kerala. There's been a starboard list on the ship, and this ship was of course carrying 640 containers, and out of that 13 were carrying hazardous material, and 12 of those containers had been carrying calcium carbide, which is one of a very hazardous chemical. It's usually used for steel manufacturing, and also what happens is when it touches moisture, there's a gas called acetylene that is released, and we know that this is very harmful to the marine environment and general the environment. Now what we are seeing is not just Kalpitia, but from Jaffna all the way to Veligama, we are getting reports of a lot of these plastic pellets, which was also on board this ship. We don't know exactly how many containers, but there is nurdles, plastic pellets, which we saw exactly 4 years ago after MV Express Pearl. These same pellets in different forms are washing up on our beaches. For the last 3 weeks now, our beaches, the coastline has been impacted severely. If you go to the beach right now, you would see like a lot of these plastic pellets in different forms washing up. And what it has done is like it has disseminated like the whole maritime coastal environment. We are seeing, I mean, these coastal environments, the fishing industry, the tourism, the leisure industry, there are so many other industries depending on it. And again, these nurdles have come and washed up. But beyond that, we are also seeing along with these nurdles, calcium carbide components, like a mixture of calcium carbide. When you touch these nurdles, you can see it's very sticky. And we've also noticed oil clumps. We don't know exactly if it is also oil clumps, oil coming from this ship, but we know that there was furnace oil that this ship was carrying as well. But there was a lot of observations of oil clumps that are washing up on our beaches. Recently, after the Poya Day, we saw it was every beach was just covered in nurdles, and we got so many reports, and it's an ongoing problem. Now, what's worse is that this after MV Express Pearl, there was these nurdles which will last in the environment. Along with that, now we are seeing these nurdles from MSC Elsa also washing up. So we are talking about over 600 kilometers of beach in Sri Lanka being affected.
Well, that is a serious cause for concern. But let me just bring in Nuwan. Nuwan,
Yes.
now with the MV Express Pearl,
Yes.
that caught fire and sank within our territorial waters, just about 9 miles offshore, I think, or something like that. So very clearly within our court's jurisdiction, as the Supreme Court pointed out yesterday. But what happens when a ship sinks clearly within the jurisdiction of another country, but the environmental damage is extended to the neighboring countries? What happens then? Who's got jurisdiction? Can we file action against the shipping company in Sri Lanka? Do we have to file in India? Do we have to make a joint claim, India and Sri Lanka? What's the legal scenario?
Thank you very much for the question. The straightforward answer is yes, we can. Whenever there is a transboundary waste, and where the impact is felt in our coastal state, in any coastal state, we can file action.
Here in Sri Lanka?
In Sri Lanka. Because true that it took place in another place, but if that transboundary effect is felt in Sri Lanka, then we can file action against the culprits in Sri Lanka.
Because the damage is here.
Damage is here. Any country whose damage is felt, then such countries can file action. That is what this Law of the Sea Convention is all about. Because that is why we negotiated this convention. Our founding fathers negotiated, we had a strong delegation at that time, and there are provisions in the Law of the Sea Convention where you can do that. Of course, then there's another question. Against whom are we going to file action? That is why we are not doing anything. You see, we can declare ourselves to be the forum to file action, and then file action even ex parte, default proceedings. Because in that case, that will bring international pressure. Are we doing that? That is the question.
So, just to digress a little bit, now you said that because the damage is felt here,
yes,
we can file here.
Yes.
So that is, that's a common sense principle, isn't it?
Yes.
If it's an issue, a crime on land, if it's in the Gampaha district, you file in the Gampaha Magistrates Court or the High Court. You don't sort of run off to Singapore or something. So
yeah.
It's very clear. This is something that first year law students would learn, the jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So we're very clear now, and especially the Supreme Court has given us a very damning judgment yesterday, stark reminder, questioning why in the world the Attorney General went running off to Singapore for a Singaporean flagged vessel, no less. Now, speaking of flags, Muditha, what's the flag of this country? It's Liberia.
It's a Liberian flag. It belonged to the MSC, Mediterranean Shipping Company.
Right. So I hope that our authorities are not going to run off to Liberia rather than filing here in Colombo or Manila or Jaffna.
Yes.
Right. So hopefully they are watching and they'll take heed of that particular point. Otherwise, they should read yesterday's judgment. It's very clear where the jurisdiction stands. Now, right, Muditha, tell us a bit more about the damage that has been done. And it's taken about a month for these nurdles to I never thought I'd hear that word again. 4 years ago, we were introduced to it, nurdle, which is a small plastic piece, and here we are talking about it again. So what's the damage that's happened so far?
So right now, what we are seeing is a long coastline, along the western coastline, starting from initially we started getting reports from Mannar. This now it's been 60 days, 61 days since the disaster, and 2.5 weeks later, we started getting reports that there is nurdles washing up in Mannar. And initially we thought maybe with the southwest monsoons, it may not come to Sri Lanka, but there has been a vortex, and then oceanographic currents obviously has pushed all these plastic pellets. Plastic pellets are basically microplastics, less than 5 millimeters in size. They are virgin plastics used basically for single-use plastic products all over the world. They are a byproduct of fossil fuel. They get shipped from Middle East. In this case, some of the packets that we saw that has washed up says that it was from Dubai, and there may be other countries also, but originally they get shipped around the world, and then obviously the ship was carrying containers which had nurdles. During MV Express Pearl also, we started seeing a lot of these packets, 25 kilo packets, carrying all these nurdles that started washing up. Very flimsy packaging, and so the moment it falls overboard or with the pressure, the water pressure, it explodes, and most of them, they get released and they start floating across the ocean, and like Nuwan said, they become transboundary marine litter. And of course, Sri Lanka being very close, they started washing up. Initially, Kerala, the beach was completely white. We started seeing images. We were worried, like, will it come to Sri Lanka? Kerala authorities were going about removing these nurdles, but it was just like MV Express Pearl, how we saw it 4 years ago. Then initially we started getting reports from Mannar, and then soon after Jaffna. Jaffna, the whole coastline, the Delft coastline, all the coastlines were just covered, similar to 4 years ago. It's like snow, white pellets all across.
Now this does not degrade. It's plastic. It's going to last for 20, 30, 40, 100 years.
Exactly. Plastic, it can go beyond 100. Some of them can go beyond 500 years. They just turn, they just weather, they discolor. They may break down, but they don't biodegrade. Usually oil or other chemicals, they may react or they may vaporize, but nurdles, plastic pellets, they don't. And it's very, very small, and it's so difficult to collect them. When we do beach cleanups, you can go collect a plastic bottle, plastic bag from the beach, but nurdles, it's so much more difficult to collect. But now we're seeing the southern coast, a lot of these nurdles. As you know, the southern coast is a very prominent place for tourism, and so now our beaches again will be deemed as plastic polluted coastlines, which is going to be having an impact on our economy in the long run as well. But the marine environment, these fish eggs, when they are in the sea, when they float across, a lot of marine animals such as fish would see this as fish eggs, and they would go and consume them. We saw after MV Express Pearl, some of these fish, inside their gills, it was all plastic. And a lot of fishermen we spoke to said that when they catch fish and when they clear it out, there's a lot of nurdles found inside. I myself have seen like feces, bird feces, seabird feces having nurdles there, and these beaches are usually where sea turtles would come to nest. We have 5 species of 7 in the world that come to nest during the season, and these beaches contain these plastic pellets. Now when they dig in to nest, they'll be finding plastic pellets. But something I notice it's happening right now is this is the off season. We call it the monsoon season. During this time, the sea is rough. There's a lot of wind coming in. So continuous movement of nurdles in the sea means that there's a lot of nurdles washing up on a daily basis. And beyond that, along with that, there's sand just comes and covers this up. And so it becomes even more difficult for us to remove these nurdles because sand comes and overlaps sediments on top of these nurdles. And when there's erosion, sand goes out, nurdles start floating again. So we've seen this mix of MV Express Pearl nurdles and MSC nurdles now mixing up as well.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the MV Express Pearl, perhaps because it was close to our coastline, the nurdles didn't reach such a wide area as this seems to have, or is it that this is now reaching the same areas?
Right. So that's a very interesting question. I mean, when MV Express Pearl incident happened also, it was, now we're talking about 38 nautical miles from Kochi. And if you see news images of Kochi, you could see similar images how we saw Sarakwa, Negombo and surrounding areas after MV Express Pearl. A lot of nurdles, a lot of these debris, beaches have turned into like, all kinds of mix of a soup of debris. But then what happens is over time, it starts distributing into wide areas. And Sri Lanka, this is what we are seeing. It's not to say after MV Express Pearl that we saw nurdles congested in one place. We did see nurdles all across our shorelines. But the distribution factor matters. In nurdles, Sarakwa, since it was very close with the currents, it was washing up predominantly along those coastlines. But now it's an equal distribution along our coastlines, very large amounts. And so I would say Kerala is of course hit worse, but for us, because of the distribution factor, we have a lot of area that we have to remove these nurdles from because of the distribution, because of currents and winds and everything moving these pellets, floating them into different parts of the beaches.
Right. So Nuwan, who's doing what in the legal sphere with regard to this ship, MSC Elsa 3?
Simple. I mean, nobody's doing anything with regard to any of these matters. As
So where are, where's the Attorney General? Where's MIPA? Where are all these people who are supposed to protect our country, basically?
Good question. I mean, the regulator is the Chief Marine Pollution Prevention Regulator is MIPA. See, we have a regulatory body, and what she should be doing is she should be doing these real-time assessments and compiling data. As Muditha said, are we doing that? And we must initiate action. Even default proceedings or ex parte proceedings can be initiated here, where the judgments can be enforced in those relevant jurisdictions where the ship owner or the ship owner's insurer is there. So to do that, we have to do the investigation here in Sri Lanka. Are we doing that? I don't see it. Only Muditha is doing it, and a few others are doing it.
Perhaps MIPA is doing it, but they don't seem to be publicizing this because we haven't heard a lot about this.
Precisely. I mean, so where is the public engagement? And not only that, there is what we call the legal engagement. Now, Muditha spoke about the environmental engagement at grassroots level, right? Ground level. Now, where is the legal engagement at the ground level? Now, say, for example, when such an incident takes place, where there is multiple countries are involved, where there is a pollution like that, then our regulators must contact the Indian Marine Pollution Prevention Regulator and share data and then inform us, look here, we also want your investigation materials because we are also going to commence action against these people. Criminal proceedings. Now, you mentioned about that beautiful judgment that came yesterday. Right, and it says under Section 76, criminal proceedings were not initiated by the relevant authorities, and Supreme Court made an astute remark on that. So again, now we are repeating the whole thing again, right? Doing nothing. Right, we can, our criminal establishment, criminal law enforcement agencies, marine pollution agencies should liaise with India, and then start sharing data and tell that there is a problem and cooperate with us. That is why we have international criminal law and various communication channels opened up under this convention. I don't think they have even opened that. And going further, right, and then we must start default criminal proceedings, civil proceedings here, so that we can get the judgment enforced in places where the assets are there. because the ship owners insurer is what we call the PNI club, Protection and Indemnity Club, for liability insurances pertaining to marine insurance damages. Right, so we can file action in Sri Lanka against the PNI club, that is the ship owner's insurer and ship owner, and even initiate criminal proceedings against those people involved based on the available data in Sri Lanka, and even getting those data from information from India. That cooperation is there under the convention.
But we
have a government, so we have to do that.
We haven't heard of any of this happening.
Yes.
Hopefully behind the scenes something is being done, but again we need some transparency on this, don't you think?
Absolutely, and that is what the Express Pearl judgment said. Inaction led to those strong and hard comments by the Supreme Court. I mean, one of the greatest judgments ever given since the creation of the Supreme Court. And I say this advisedly, one of the greatest. Our Supreme Court is 200 years old. And this is one of the most unprecedented judgments came from Sri Lanka, a developing country, which is even bettering the quality of justice from UK. This will be an international precedent for hundreds of years to come. People will talk about this over and over and over again. This is a little country that brought such a magnificent judgment to the world, and this is one of the finest. I mean, it will even create a state practice under the United Nations Law of the Sea Convention. So, I mean, I'm grateful that your organization, I mean, your media organization is, I think, one of the only organization who spoke about this, right? And the result is that we have a wonderful judgment, and even after that, what are we doing? Nothing. As far as this incident is concerned.
Well, hopefully now we can get some action, especially after the Supreme Court judgment. But we'll delve into this a lot more. But first, we need to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back after this.
Chamatkara Ratriya, an enchanting night awaits. A tribute to timeless legends, a celebration of melodies that echo through generations. A heartfelt homage to two icons who defined the soundscape of a nation. Victor Ratnayaka and Priya Suryasena. Their songs shaped our stories. Their voices touched our souls.
Join us for a night of unforgettable performances by Newwan Peiris, Samitha Mudunkotua, Sanka Dine, Raini Charuka, Nadimal Pereira, Lakshita Suryasena, Hiroshi Suryasena,
Chamatkara Ratriya, where legends live again. Musical direction by the brilliant Mahesh Nenipitiya. Every note will carry the soul of a legend. Mark your calendars for the 2nd of August from 6:30 p.m. onwards at the Muses College Auditorium. Tickets via theticketsministry.com. Don't miss the most heart-touching musical event of the year. Chamatkara Ratriya.
GDP around $30,000 billions, 30,000, but in Sri Lankan context we are just only 80 billions.
And one of the economic principle also say, with the trade, everybody better off.
Now, why he has reduced 44 to 30? That's what my point is all about, right? He's not playing kind of a trade game with us.
Now only the government, we are seeing that the provincial council election has completed and the people are appointed, but now only the infrastructure projects are being, the money is being deployed.
Face the Nation every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. on TV1.
What we need for Sri Lanka for the moment is the economic growth, because our debt becomes sustainable, our revenue is going to increase based on the growth that we take.
Face these type of issues, and within that plan, how to so increase imports from the United States, which should in the future allow them to bring down the tariffs.
I said you all must get together, otherwise there is no future for the SLP, and that is exactly what has happened. Today they have split into 3 camps, 3 groups, 3 factions, and they are trying their level best to see what they could do.
I mean, school education is
curriculum.
Curriculum, but not just because of the curriculum. I think we need to have them in a proper way all throughout the society. I mean, we do have many things in our curriculum, but we rarely find them in action.
The global renaissance of Tamil music.
Shakti Crowd. Every Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. only on Shakti TV.
Welcome back to the People's Platform. I am in conversation with Muditha Katuwawala, Executive Director of the Pearl Protectors, and Nuwan Peiris, Attorney at Law. Now, Nuwan, just briefly, I'm a little confused about why we seem to be so shy about initiating criminal action as opposed to civil action. Now, normally, let's take a common crime, a murder. Okay, so you have a murder, you've got the body, and you have a suspect, but it doesn't matter whether the suspect is here or he's living in Greenland. It doesn't matter. The proceedings, the investigation, the legal proceedings have to take place, and finally a magistrate will issue a warrant, which, if the guy is here, fine, police have to arrest him. If he's in another country, then Interpol and all that gets involved. So why is it any different when it is a criminal act against our environment? Why are we concerned about where the ship owners are, where the insurers are? You know, I'm talking about the criminal action, not the civil action.
I mean, this baffles me, to be honest. I mean, this is what the judgment also said. You see, we must start the criminal investigations first, right? Exactly. Our police authorities, our relevant regulatory bodies must contact the flag state, that is, I believe, Liberia, and the place of chief impact, that is India, and then get data and start our criminal investigation going. MIPA, police, so on and so forth. Are we doing that? No. And then we must get the necessary direction and advice from the Attorney General, or even report facts to the Magistrate Court under the MIPA Act or under the Criminal Procedure Act, because the environmental disaster is felt here. Are we doing that? No. Why? because thereafter, if we have enough information, we can thereafter decide whether we should go for the criminal proceedings or not. But we must initiate criminal proceedings. Say, for example, now when British citizens died here because of this Easter Sunday bomb attack, foreign authorities did investigations because their citizens died here. Similarly, we should start our investigations here. Have we commenced? I don't see anything. Now Muditha was speaking on and on about this damage, how deeply impactful it is, and I'm talking about why nobody's doing anything about it, right? So that is the sad situation.
It's quite baffling. But now, Muditha, correct me if I'm wrong, but we in Sri Lanka seem to have a long history of doing nothing. When there's a ship which is wrecked off our coast or close by to our country, and I mean, in my career, I've seen, I don't know, dozens perhaps of ships which you hear about it, and then you know that it has some impact on our coastline, and then that's it. You don't hear anything about compensation, legal proceedings, and so on. The exception was Express Pearl because it was right there in front of Colombo. But let's talk about some of the history of this of shipwrecks.
Yeah, you're very correct. I mean, Sri Lanka, we're talking about being in the center of the Indian Ocean. Being an island, we see almost all the ships that pass through Suez Canal pass through our waters, our seas. We should ideally be a hub of blue economy, a maritime service sector for the whole Asia Pacific. And can we provide that? We've seen over and over again, we've seen so many maritime incidents all across Sri Lanka. I mean, the recent ones like being MT New Diamond, this happened 2020. 300,000 metric tons of oil was on this ship. If that ship had ruptured and if that oil had spilled out, our entire East Coast would be suffering to date and furthermore as well. So similarly, we've seen like MV Amnat Shah that was happening in 2006. We've seen MT Granba, this was carrying sulfuric acid, and then there was MV Melik Shah, this was carrying fertilizer. MV Express Pearl, luckily, of course, MV Express Pearl, there was prominent public pressure, there was media attention, which after 4 years, thankfully, we came to this point. But so many other maritime incidents have gone unnoticed. And in Kerala, already the MSC Elsa, for the incident, Kerala government has demanded a compensation of $1.1 billion already.
So they're already on the ball,
already
right
on
there.
the ball.
They're not just cleaning it up and saying, oh, we'll run to Liberia or Singapore or whatever. They've made their demand already.
Exactly. We've seen this all around the world. Many developed countries, when incidents have happened, there is a direct demand for the shipping company to pay compensation, demanding damages. But in Sri Lanka, we don't see this. So many maritime incidents have happened. And I mean, if you ask a simple question, how many maritime incidents do you know? We don't know anything. And so this is the current fear. Will MSC Elsa face the same issue? And this is why I think it's very important. We need attention, we need public pressure, we need to talk about it. This is our beaches, this is our coastal environment. It's a very unique, beautiful coastal environment we are polluting because of one shipping incident. And that is why also over time we really need to develop on our services, maritime services, rescue operations, better policies, monitoring, enforcement. We're still not there. We can't be a hub in the Indian Ocean for blue economy maritime services.
But it's high time, isn't it? I mean, and this is not something the private sector can do. It's government agencies which need to get going. Nuwan, what's your opinion on this? I mean, don't we need some a national framework for this? Because as Muditha said, we are on the major shipping route. We are the South Asian hub for transshipment. So we are going to have more incidents in the future. So are we ready to deal with this, especially legally?
No, because we have some kind of a system here, but nobody's doing anything about it. You see, now as Muditha said, I mean, we should have, at least did we give a letter of, did we send a letter of demand to the shipping company or to the insurer? Nothing. Now Muditha raised a very astute point. I mean, very correct. Have we said, have we done anything at all? Nothing. And we can start, we can declare our forum to be the forum for the damages in this country. Because otherwise what will happen? If that doesn't happen, then it will be remiss on our part. So we should start default civil proceedings under the MIPA Act provisions against the ship owner and the PNI club, so that we can get the judgment enforced in those relevant areas where the PNI club, that is the insurer, and the ship owner has assets, right? Or when a sister ship comes, we may even arrest that. So nothing is done. And we just talk about developing a national framework when we are not even making use of the yesterday's judgment. See how bad that is. Now, even in that yesterday's judgment, they said that appoint a committee to see whether what are the international laws that we can ratify and even enforce it in Sri Lanka. So the Supreme Court is really going ahead and giving us the directions, and we are not doing anything.
But right, again, why do we need the Supreme Court to tell us, a seafaring nation, to tell us to go out there and figure out what the laws are with regard to the sea, the conventions, and to ratify those and apply? That's what government is there for. We've got a Ministry of Shipping, we've got
qualified individuals,
a foreign ministry. We have all that. Do we really need the Supreme Court to tell us this? I mean, it's wonderful that they did, but it points to this malaise where our shipping laws are concerned.
Yes, I mean, culpable inaction, lack of interest. I mean, are they showing the same interest that your channel is showing or Muditha is showing? Nothing, right? We can just, as Muditha said, send a letter of demand. Have we sent it? Nothing. Right? I mean, have we done anything at all? Have we informed this to the IMO and then asked for an international committee of inquiry? Have we written to India a note verbal? I mean, through our marine pollution regulator and through the necessary channels. We also want to do a joint criminal investigation. Right? Please give your data to us also, because we have a right to share. There is a provision to share information as of right. You see, when the incident has taken place in India, right, India can't just say, no, we are not going to share the information, this is our problem, when the impact is felt to the other country as well, right? There is 1936 judicial precedent on that, trail smelter, right? And we are not doing anything. So, and the international cases in 1930s have said that, two Law of the Sea conventions have said that, our Supreme Court has said that, giving effect to those beautiful convention provisions. Right? And your channel is talking about it, Muditha is talking about it, and we are not doing anything as a nation. So therefore, it is important that what we need to do right now is to immediately, I mean, because, engage with India, right? And share, please, share your, whatever the data you have with us for us to investigate as well. That is the first thing that we should be doing. Now that in itself is inaction. Now how many, more than a month has passed by and we haven't done anything. Isn't that culpability in itself?
Well, it's downright strange if you ask me. You can, if you look at the judgment of the Supreme Court yesterday, the Supreme Court has pretty much pointed the finger and even asked the Bribery Commission to investigate. So clearly there's a lot of evidence with regard to the Express Pearl of corruption in the whole process. But it begs the question. Now we have this one, MSc El Satri. Is that same
absolutely, because by now
process at work, or is it simply a lack of just a lack of interest? What would you say on that?
No, I think over and over again we've seen how over time we've seen the impact and we just let it go. And this has been I'm not just talking about maritime sector. Talk about everything, environment concerns. Just because the environment doesn't have a voice, this has led to a lot of negligence and of course corruption. We Express Pearl. There's been, I mean, I can say for sure that there's been a lot of corruption behind.
Well, we can't point fingers at anyone. But the Supreme Court, I think, pretty much
has given
underlined the fact that there were a lot of irregularities in what took place.
And one of the main things is public pressure and transparency. I think that those are very clear aspects that we need to make sure. If you look at array of maritime incidents happening in globally developed countries, you can see the government, the authority would come out, do a public press release and explain what's the process, what is the process exactly, what's going to happen, and how the action is going to take place. So the public would know what is going on. But in this case, in Sri Lanka, that is not to be seen. We've seen this with MV Express Pearl. We've been, one thing we did was after MV Express Pearl, a month after, we launched a campaign called the Nurdle Free Lanka campaign to remove these nurdles. And this was during the COVID, of course, with all the challenges. But we started seeing on a daily basis 5-6 sea turtles washing up on the beaches and dolphins, porpoises. But we did not know why they were dying because the reports were still kept inside. They were not made public. And so over the years, we started seeing all these dead marine animals washing up, but then no one knew why it was happening. And similarly, I think that is where it needs to start, especially on this transparency, accountability, and of course, this public pressure. There has to be more people talking about it, because this is our beach we're talking about. This is our marine environment, the coastal environment that is being impacted, not just temporary, but permanently for a very long time.
Now, Nuwan, in the past, we have had governments where anything happens anywhere, in any sphere, a minister will pop up and say, oh, we need new laws for that. And, you know, you'd have lawyers, academics turning around and saying, we have laws, the minister simply doesn't seem to know about it. But that became an excuse. We don't have the laws. But right now, do we have the laws? Because from the Supreme Court judgment yesterday, it looks like we do have the laws. Of course, there may be more conventions and laws which we need, but it's not like we can sit back and say, we don't have the laws, let the nurdles wash ashore, we can't do anything. It's not that at all. We need to take some action. Am I correct?
Yes. And yesterday's Supreme Court judgment gives way, because when the impact is felt, as I told you, under the convention, right, we have a sovereign right to take action. Right, one option is to, you know, send our claim to India and then say, why don't you combine our claim and then file action? That is to abdicate our sovereignty. That's not the best way to do that. Under the convention, we have sovereign right to take action, and we have the laws in place, right, under section 24 of MIPA Act 26. And there are so many plethora of provisions where we can file civil proceedings, even default proceedings, what we call ex parte proceedings, where the other side is absent. Civil proceedings can be filed, right, after collecting evidence, right, as Muditha said, you know, in Sri Lanka. And thereafter, once we get a judgment, we can enforce it. Now, I'll tell you the danger. We haven't done anything except people like Muditha in our coast, right? Now, if we get a judgment right now and if we try to enforce it in England, they will say, look here, you know, you have started collecting, you know, evidence, you know, with a lapse of time. Right, and they might say, look here, after some time, you know, you can't identify this particular nurdles with the other kind of nurdles that was polluted beforehand. That is exactly what.
So there's a scientific process which needs to be followed,
and quickly. From the moment the impact started feeling us, we should have started the investigation. Right, criminal investigation, civil investigation, environmental investigation.
Universities should have been
yes, hundreds of them should be going to streets. Not only him. He's the only one who is working. I have seen him. I think he's all alone. I mean, I saw him in King Ross Swimming Club collecting all this stuff, and I met him. right? And I felt sorry because he's the only person who is doing it, and you are the only channel that is raising this issue at least.
Now, Muditha, now with the MV Express Pearl, we did have especially the Sri Lankan Navy just got out there and was cleaning up the beaches, and you know there was a lot of activity, but we're not seeing it this time.
So, according to what I know, in the Mannar and Jaffna, especially in the Delft area, the MIPA officials are out there removing these nurdles that have impacted. I think it's because initially the impact was felt in these areas, and so they are utilizing more effort to that area. But the thing is, this spill is not just secluded to that area only. It from Kalpitia, if you like, we are getting footages from Kalpitia. The whole beach, Kalpitia beach, is just all nurdles. Similarly, during the last week, Valigama area, Hikkadu area, Vaddu area, all these beaches were completely covered in nurdles.
I mean, that's far south.
Far south. We are talking now. It could even spread because there's another vortex around the Arugambe area that could take that whatever is floating around there much to the eastern side, and this is of course the eastern season, and this could spread across not just Sri Lanka. We're talking about Maldives and spreading out across into many other countries as well. But I think the key thing is, I mean, we have been on the beaches after MV Express Pearl. Of course, we developed these tools to go and collect it, because you can't go and pick one by one. These nurdles, it's very hard to, it's very difficult. They come in different forms, and they're on the high tide or in the deeper side of the beaches. We have to sieve it. Sieving takes a lot of time and effort, and just to collect. Now, we've done 4 cleanups during the last few weeks. One cleanup, we had about 30 volunteers. We were able to collect about 12-13 kilograms. One packet was carrying 25 kilos of nurdles, and one container would have had at least 1,080 packets, and we are talking more than 50-60 containers that would have contained nurdles, and you can imagine how much effort that we need to put to collect it. So it's difficult. It's impossible to collect all the nurdles back, and I think that this is where I think it's very important globally. These plastic pellets, nurdles, need to be categorized into a special section legally, maybe under the MARPOL Convention, and ratified so that maritime services, shipping, can have a better way to package it, better way to transport it, because this can't happen again and again. 4 years after MV Express Pearl, we thought, okay, that was the largest nurdle spill ever recorded in the world, and then we are seeing this again after 4 years. Who is to stay like in another year? Another ship disaster could happen, and all the nurdles will start floating up again. So this is the problem.
Right, and we are almost out of time. So final thoughts, Nuwan, on the legal process that needs to go forward with regard not just to this MSC El Satri ship, but in the future, how do we need to react without waiting for the Attorney General to decide, Singapore or Liberia or wherever? Shouldn't there be a proper process?
Just that we need to show some initiative. That's all we need. Yes, there are certain MIPA Act should be revised to give more teeth, as Muditha said, to capture some of the developments that have taken place, which we have not incorporated into our laws. But here, going forward, what we need to do is to take action on ELSA. That is, start liaising with the Indian government and get whatever the data you can from that country. You see, because they have to respond to us. That is the first thing you need to do. Secondly, I mean, now already MIPA, if they are collecting data and all that, right, build up that evidence, right, and then get a legal team and start sending the letter of demands, and then also declare a forum to be the legitimate forum to file action, so on and so forth. There are legal steps we have to take. We have not taken those things. So do those things first. And then, of course, in the meanwhile, of course, Supreme Court has given a direction saying that with regard to the Express Pearl judgment yesterday, that appoint a committee and see whether what are the areas that we can look into as far as the legal development is concerned. That committee is going on, so let that go. So, but that will be prospective in effect. That's not going to cure the present problem. So, present problem, we have to get engaged, and the legal teams have to get engaged from MIPA and do that, because even to enforce a judgment, we must have a judgment in our place, in our own country, and we're not doing anything. So that is my final thoughts. Simply put, you see, just get all the heads around, get them into a place, and then, you know, charter the legal course. I mean, the Supreme Court has very beautifully said what to do. Do it. That's my answer.
Thank you very much, and I'm afraid we are out of time. My thanks to Muditha Katuwawala, Executive Director of the Pearl Protectors, and Nuwan Peiris, who is an attorney at law specializing in marine law. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And I do hope that we can draw some attention to what is a pressing national issue. And thank you to you at home for watching. And don't go away, because the news is coming up next. Have a great weekend.